Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. So I wanted to ask you, do you worship idols? Now, probably your first reaction is idols. That's so primitive, or that's so long ago. You know, I don't live on a island of a secluded tribe in the Pacific, or I'm living in today. I don't live thousands of years ago, worshiping a golden calf. Um, it's probably what comes to mind when you really think about that. But stick with me here on this video. So, of course, God says, uh, do not have idols, any false gods before me. Now, so today's world, well, first of all, Satan is a master of deception, okay? And of course, I would have thought, the same thing about idols. Really, I did. I mean, it wasn't even in really my mindset, because of course not. Until a couple years ago, okay? So, God has always been and will always be the same. And God is truth. That means truth has always been and will always be the same. Okay? And the word in like the Bible says, do not make images. So that word kind of stuck with me, especially with my previous history on meditation and what we picture in our mind. And you can hear all people talk about picturing it in your mind to manifest it, or there's a lot of terms and stuff like that. But images, it didn't say like statues, it didn't say monoliths or whatever. It said images. So bear with me here. Of course, let's say, of course, we don't build a golden calf and dance around it and all that stuff. But corporations, they're not alive. They're man-made. And they have images. They have logos. And through marketing, when you see that logo, they want people to have a certain thought and feeling associated with that logo. Corporations are dead things. Even like the New York Stock Exchange, there is this massive bull is their image, or their logo. Sitting, the massive bull. And then of course you'll say, nobody's going up to this bull and dancing around it and all that stuff. But think about this. So the bull is the image for the New York Stock Exchange. And do people worship the New York Stock Exchange? And you don't have to do rituals or dances necessarily. It's what you put your faith in. It's what you put your trust in. Do not trust false idols, is what we're told. And so to really see, maybe you may even worship it and not even know. So think about this for a second. What if the New York Stock Exchange was done away with? It was gone. It collapsed. It died. How would you feel? Would you be fearful? Would you be scared? Would you be sad? Do you have your trust, maybe your retirement, in the New York Stock Exchange? But it comes down to really, what do you put your trust in? What do you put your faith in? What do you rely on? Is what you worship, okay? What you desire is what you worship. Do you desire money? more than God? Or is it God who supplies everything and uses money or whatever to bless you? There's a difference there. And that's what I really want to point out in this video. Because it's kind of it's of course it's something that probably most people don't even think about in this way. But your corporations are man-made dead things. They don't give anything. It's the people who serve them who make things happen, right? So, and we've kind of just been born in this structure, this reality, okay? And when I say Satan is a master deceiver, it's really so big and so woven in our life that it's hidden in plain sight, okay? But what I want to ask you, like, do you worship idols? There's a difference. I mean, God knows what we're in, the situation we're in, or what we have to do. But do you serve that idol? Like God says, do not bow down and serve false idols. And what that means is, of course, you're not just on your knees and bowing down, but do you compromise who you are for the corporation? And I kind of touch this on, like, do you live in fear? Do you act in ways that's not true to you because you're afraid of losing your job? Do you compromise not being love, being truth, or being peace because the job requires it, because the corporation requires it? So do you bow down to serve? Okay? Just like the New York Stock Exchange, if the corporation you worked for went out of business, died, collapsed, would you be worried about your future? Would you be scared? Would you think it's the end of the world? Or so what it comes down to is, do you rely on the corporation and put your trust in the corporation to provide you what you need? Or do you put your faith in God, that no matter what, He will provide? And at this moment, He is using that corporation as a tool to provide for you. There's a difference there, if you see what I mean. Putting your trust in the dead thing, or putting your trust in life. Putting your trust in the corporation, or putting your trust in God. So there's a difference there. And when you put your trust, I've kind of touched on this, when you put your trust or your faith, or you think the worldly thing is what's giving you what you need, they're all temporary, and they're snares, because that's not where they come from. God provides. It doesn't matter if all corporations went out of business, He can still provide you what you need. Okay? And that is, I kind of mentioned the things that we kind of seek: joy, happiness, peace, security. And I mentioned walking this path and involving God in your life. There's no stress, there's no worry, there's no fear. That's really what we're wanting, and that comes from God. But if you think that it comes from the corporations, the economy, money, governments have images, and they're man-made creations. They, flags, or they have images. Basically, usually it's a flag that have certain feelings or thoughts associated with them when you see them. Okay? Do you compromise who you are for dead things? Do you bow down and serve dead things, idols who have images or logos? It's something to think about. I mean, of course, God, God knows. I'm not saying go out and just like quit your job. I'm not saying do all that stuff. I'm just saying it's a mindset and where you put your faith. It comes from the Lord Almighty, all things. It does not come from dead things. Okay? And really, when I realized this a couple years ago, you know, like I really had to put myself to the test. Just think about it. Whatever corporation or government or dead thing, um, even like the show American Idol, right? American Idol. So American Idol. So really, this is a persona. Like you don't necessarily know the person, right? But you're celebrating a persona, which is really fake. I mean, that's what acting is. It's illusions. Okay? So, you know, that's kind of a different level. I kind of mentioned Google Hollywood, the what type of wood, and see what it's used for and by whom. And it kind of gives you an idea of what Hollywood's about. But my whole point here is, where do you put your faith? Where do you put your trust? Do you put them in temporary dead things? I've kind of mentioned this in this way before, but not about idols. Do you bow down? Do you sacrifice who you are for the good of the corporation or, dead thing? I mean, when you think about it, it's like, I used to think that things were so different now than even hundreds of years ago, let alone thousands of years ago, and things that were applied back then don't apply now and all that. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter what clothes the things are wearing. It doesn't matter how things look on the outside. It has always been the same. It has always been good versus evil. It has always been love versus lack of love or hate, however you want to word it, I guess. It's always been that. It has always been the same. It doesn't matter about our technology or man's creations, because we're still in the same framework of the eternal framework of what has always and will always be. So I wanted to bring this up because, like I said, it kind of goes with what I've been saying about we think worldly things is the way to what we really want, but what we really want doesn't come from those things. We just think it comes from those things. But when you think that's the way, and then when it isn't the way, or you realize it's only temporary or an illusion, then you think that there's no chance. It kind of takes your hope away. That's where fear comes in, and then that's when you start going down a wrong path. Okay? And so that's why put your faith in God. God provides all. It's not from the corporation. It's not from the government. Don't bow down or compromise who you are, because that's what's eternal, to serve dead things or idols. Make idols of them. Make them more important than you. Make them more important than God. Think they're more powerful and provide for you over God. God provides. So just think about that, and do you worship idols? And again, I'm not saying go out and quit your job or do any of that stuff, okay? What I'm saying is involve God in your life like always. Go to God like always. But make sure your priorities are correct. And when you know that God provides, it doesn't matter what happens to the corporation. It doesn't matter what happens to your job. It doesn't matter what happens to the government, because it doesn't come, what you need does not come from that. It comes from God. And He is the Almighty. There's nothing impossible with Him. And that's freeing. And again, you don't fear. You don't worry. You don't have stress. Those are snares that the enemy uses to keep us down, to keep us from our walk, moving on, to keep us snared. So again, I wanted to bring this up, and please comment below, like always, questions or what you think about this, because really at first it's just like uh, it's not what the kind of the worldly perception is when you say the words, do you worship idols? But when you go through, and it kind of goes back to, like I said, I always use it kind of like a measurement. Like, go back, if you were among the first humans before man's creations, man's like money, things, possessions, technology, before traditions, before religions, before books, before all that stuff, what would be important and how would you define yourself? Again, that's why I personally use that as a standard, because that's the way God created everything. And then man just kind of, man did man's thing, I guess. Okay, don't judge. I mean, I would say we kind of messed things up in some ways, but it's really, um, it's really being deceived. And so again, I wanted to bring this awareness up. But anyways, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut this off here. Please put your comments down below, questions, all that. If you like the video, thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And, of course, ring-a-ding-a-ling that bell for notifications when I upload a video. And stay strong, and God bless.